In the heart of medieval Europe emerged an extraordinary king, a man who united empires and led peoples with wisdom and strength. Charlemagne, also known as Charles the Great. From his rise in the post-Roman world to the founding of the greatest Western kingdom since the fall of Rome, we will delve into the story of a king who was not just a ruler, but a history maker. A story of wars, alliances and culture that shaped Europe as we know it today. Welcome to this new video in our series on the greatest kings in history. Are you ready to embark on a journey through the life of one of history's greatest monarchs? Charlemagne, also known as Charles the Great, was born between 742 and 748, either in Liège or Herstal in present-day Belgium, or in Aachen, Germany. His mother, Bertrada of Lyon, came from an influential family that founded the Brum Abbey, and his father, Pepin the Short, became the first king of the Carolingian dynasty, after serving as Grand Master of the Merovingian kings. Charlemagne was named after his grandfather, Charles Martel, known as the Hammer of War, a testament to the dynasty's legitimacy and the legacy of military power that characterized the family. He was raised in a devout Catholic family where his mother had a profound influence on his spiritual and political development. From a young age, he participated in court affairs and gained early experience in politics and warfare, despite his limited formal education, which left him considered almost illiterate. At the age of 18, he accompanied his father on a military campaign to Aquitaine and participated in the coronation of his father Pepin by Pope Stephen II. This event solidified the monarchy's authority with the Church's blessing and paved the way for Charlemagne's later religious legitimacy. Charlemagne grew up in the Francia, a kingdom that had been gradually expanding since the reign of Clovis III. He witnessed frequent conflicts between the Merovingians and the nobility, which weakened the traditional monarchy and led to the rise of the position of Master of the Court. His grandfather, Charles Martel, and his wife became the de facto power behind the throne, expanding their territory and defeating their rivals east and west of the Rhine. They unified the kingdom through strict policies and established a strong foundation for the Carolingian state founded by his father, Pepin the Short, after the overthrow of the last Merovingian ruler in 750. Upon Pepin's death in 768, the kingdom was divided between Charlemagne and his brother, Carloman. Charlemagne received the major territories of Austrasia and Neustrasia, while Carloman ruled the less affluent and vulnerable central lands. This division raised the prospect of conflict over the Aquitaine monarchy, leading to a series of military and political campaigns to suppress noble rebellions and consolidate control over the newly acquired territories. In 769, Charlemagne led a campaign to suppress the Aquitaine rebellion. He then allied with his mother against Carloman, leveraging alliances with the Duke of Bavaria and the Lombard king, including marrying the Lombard king's daughter to solidify these alliances. However, Carloman's death in 771 left Charlemagne as the sole ruler, unifying the entire kingdom and empowering him to embark on a series of extensive military and diplomatic campaigns. Charlemagne's campaigns focused on protecting the kingdom from external threats, annexing neighbouring territories and spreading Christianity, much like his ancestors had done. In Italy, he intervened to protect the Pope and the Church's interests, besieging Pavia and annexing the Lombards. He assumed the title of King of the Lombards, in addition to King of the Franks, a rare act at the time. On the Eastern Front, he waged a protracted war against the Saxons, beginning in 772, targeting their fortresses and holy sites, such as Irminsul. This led to a series of uprisings, and he forcibly converted thousands of Saxons to Christianity after long battles that sometimes involved mass killings and deportations. He also consolidated his control over the Frisians, Saxon allies. Although some regions submitted, the uprisings did not cease even after the Saxons formally submitted. Conflicts flared up again during his absence from the Eastern territories. He did not hesitate to launch a campaign in Spain in 778 to counter the Muslim threat on the southern border. With the support of some local Muslim leaders, the campaign ended in failure against the Basque forces, and several of his senior officers were killed, making it one of his closest attempts to disaster. Meanwhile, the Saxons took advantage of the king's absence to rebel and destroy new settlements, including his castle in Paderborn. He sent another campaign in 780, during which he forcibly converted large numbers of people to mass baptism. In 781, he ended the long conflict over Aquitaine by appointing his son Louis as king of the region. From there, campaigns were launched southward to secure control of the Spanish March between the Pyrenees Mountains and the Ebro River. That same year, Charlemagne returned to crown his two sons, Pepin as king of the Lombards and Louis as king of Aquitaine, while Saxon uprisings continued until the mid-1800s. His victory over Duke Tassilo III of Bavaria in 794 and his subsequent capture of Tassilo, which placed him in a position of strength, paved the way for expanding influence over the Slavic and Avar tribes, whose empire was gradually collapsing after repeated defeats at the hands of the Franks. This contributed to the kingdom's expansion and the spread of Christianity in the region. With the length of its borders, Charlemagne began to rely less on direct military force and focused more on diplomacy. He established stable relationships with Denmark, the Slavic tribes, the Bretons, and the Duchy of Benevento, and most importantly, with the papacy. This strengthened his religious and political influence and extended his dominion over Christian Europe. Domestically, he ensured stability through the administrative institutions inherited from the Merovingians and consolidated his power through annual assemblies that linked the king to bishops and local nobles, demanding loyalty and obedience from all. He appointed regional governors, counts, to administer justice, collect taxes and raise troops. He also worked to develop the army by granting land and privileges and focused on the economy by improving agricultural production, expanding maritime trade, standardizing currency and weights, and protecting merchants from excessive duties. His reforms extended to the religious and cultural spheres as well. He spearheaded the renewal of the church, raising the ethics and scholarship of the clergy, standardizing rites, and strengthening pastoral care. He oversaw the Carolingian Renaissance, focusing on developing education, improving Latin proficiency, publishing books, and rebuilding libraries. His palace in Aachen became a cultural center known as New Athens, and his advisors, most notably the Anglo-Saxon Alcuin, played a prominent role in shaping a cultural policy encompassing poetry, history and theology, which contributed to the flourishing of Christian literature and thought in Western Europe. His achievements culminated in his coronation as Emperor of the Romans by Pope Leo III in 800, a title not a planned objective, but rather a consequence of events in Rome. This crowned him as a protector of the Church and a reaffirmer of the divine right of the monarchy. Despite his advancing age and the emergence of new threats such as the Vikings and the Saracens, Charlemagne continued to strengthen administration, diplomacy and religious and cultural reform until his death in 814. He left the kingdom to his only surviving son, Louis the Pious, while the other territories were divided among his other sons. After his death, the fragmentation of the kingdom led to civil strife and wars, culminating in the Treaty of Verdun and the division of the empire into 3 parts, paving the way for the emergence of modern France and Germany. Nevertheless, Charlemagne's legacy endures, the unification of Western and Central Europe for the first time since the fall of Rome, the strengthening of the Church's authority, a cultural renaissance, and the establishment of the model of a strong Christian monarch that inspired later rulers. He is known today as Europae Pater, the father of Europe, a symbol of strength, unity, and religious and cultural reform, and his political, cultural, and religious legacy laid the foundations for a later united Europe. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.